Hey, what's up, nerdies? Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect Marvel releases. My name's English Dave, and joining me for some co-op gaming is my co-host Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
Hello, hello.
Today, we're going to discuss X-Men 97 Episode 4, which it does something unique and it breaks it down into two episodes, one focused on Jubilee and one focused on Storm. So without spoilers, Andrew, what do you think of this week's episode?
I really enjoyed it. Like you said, it was a juxtaposition of Jubilee and Storm stories. And somehow they got through the story elements really quickly, but it didn't feel rushed somehow to me. And also the fact that it sets up something, nefarious next. So I really enjoyed it. Really.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a very good episode. And like you said, the balance of timing, the full thing's only about 30 minutes. But somehow they were able to give us two episodes in one. But at the same time, they almost had similar themes, about letting go of the past and moving forward, and how that's a struggle and that journey that we all have to kind of face at some point in our life, at many stages of our lives where things change, and how do we kind of deal with those changes. Jubilee is dealing with the change that she's turning 18. Storm is dealing with the change that she doesn't have her powers. And I think they blended those two very well, even though that's something that they don't really do with this X-Men animated series. Usually that's a staple of old animated shows where you'd always have two stories within the 30-minute timeline. But this is something that X-Men doesn't traditionally do, but I think they did a good job of that. We're going to break it down, both episodes, one by one. We're going to start up with the first episode, titled Motendo. On her birthday, a nostalgic Jubilee is forced to relive the X-Men's greatest adventures when an entertainment system transports her into a 16-bit video game. I didn't realize Jubilee was just turning 18. It was good to find out. It was a good way to kind of know that she turned 18. It was her birthday. What did you do for your 18th birthday? Do you remember?
I remember. That's way too long ago. I literally have no clue. But I'm sure I was in college by then, so it was definitely a lit time, but there were no jubilations, as Beast said.
Beast jubilation. I loved when in that scene, that sequence when Beast is like, "Yes, I agree with the Walking Rogaine ad."
He has the best one-liners, even before Wolverine for me. Like, I just love listening to Beast. He's so witty.
I feel like Beast will always, it doesn't matter what's happening. It could be an alien invasion. It could be a nuclear explosion. The sun could be imploding. But somehow he'll find some witty retort that is going to make you want to pick up a thesaurus and be like, what did you say? As usual, this episode, if we just go back a bit, it does the same thing that we've been seeing so far in every episode, where the intro has different scenes and different clips or different characters. They do some cool stuff this time. Two cool stuff that I liked amongst the other things they did. One, we see the change of Jean, because it's the original Jean is back. And if you notice a subtle difference in the previous intros, Jean had, I think, her hair long and out, and this version had hairs in a ponytail to make it slightly different. It's a nice little touch. And also, because he left to go back into the future, Bishop doesn't have his whole title card anymore in the intro either. I like that. And then we feature some other characters that we've seen in previous X-Men series. I think we see Forge and his team of X Factor. We see some of them and lots of other clips that we see that I'm not going to go through. You can kind of scan through yourself. But back to the episode. I like Magneto. He's one of those leaders. He's just like, I don't care if it's your birthday. I don't care. Sinister could come back. We need to go back for training. What do you think of Magneto's reluctance to want to go to the arcade with Jubilee?
I like his one-track mind, because he's like, you'll have more birthdays if you learn to survive. Like, he's consistent, right? And he's crazy. But even more than that, I loved the interaction with him and Gambit. Right? Gambit
yes.
A little bit jealous with Rogue, and Magneto already knowing the sugar that she needs. It's just a little like dynamic that's been building and just keeps like building every episode. And I'm curious to where that goes. Like, I feel like Gambit's gonna have a blowout one day. But that aside, Magneto, we know what he is, right? He's Mr. War leader. He doesn't care. What is a birthday? Like, my parents died. Like, another child. Like, shut up.
That Gambit moment, I thought it was interesting as well, because Gambit has a moment of, oh, okay, so you're making coffee for everybody. I'll have a cappuccino.
Yeah.
And Magneto's like, no. And that just goes to show that Magneto's not even pretending. He's not even trying to be slick and like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how I treat everybody. No, there's clearly favoritism towards Rogue. Mm-hmm. Just rub right in Gambit. Do you think we could see Gambit versus Magneto? How would that play out? I'm interested. I'm curious because on paper my mind says no, Gambit, don't even try it. But I don't know. Maybe you could surprise us.
I don't know. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I like when Jubilee complains to Roberto, and she's mimicking Eric when she's like, "You would have the master of magnetism seen in a bar of childish make believe." I just love that. She makes fun of it. Which, I have some issues with Roberto. How old is he? He's probably about the same age as Jubilee. And this guy's just all like, "Oh, video games? You still play video games?" Yes, Roberto, we still play video games. Shut your mouth. What have you got to say about that? I felt, like he attacked me when he said that.
Yeah, and even I think he said he'd rather his parents found out about his powers.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, that's a little drastic. Like,
right.
I don't get it. Like, and you're completely correct. His age should also place him at the age where like it's even more acceptable to play, video games. So I guess they showed us that just to kind of, cement his character's philosophies or like feelings. And he doesn't like video games. Which, fair enough, right? I can't force anyone, but it just seemed weird that, he doesn't want anyone to find out about his powers, but he could rather that than play video games. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
He'd rather that than be caught dead playing video games.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just like, okay, relax. They discover the Motendo video game console. I like the kind of reference. It's called Motendo, like Nintendo, but it looks like a Sega Mega Drive, Genesis for those Americans out there. And I thought it was an interesting design on it. But hey, if it was me and that appeared in my room, I would have done the same thing. I'm like, yes, let's play this. This sounds amazing. They get pulled into the world of the video game, but at first they don't realize it. And again, once they get attacked by the Sentinels and the Friends of Humanity, once again, Roberto's like, I don't want to use my powers in case anybody sees me. But you'd rather that than play video games, huh?
You'd literally rather die, sir. Like, I had issues with him as well. Like, just shut up, sir. Just shut up.
Right? Like, what is wrong with you? And then this time we get a couple of clips of old episodes or old flashbacks. And I think this is one of the few times we fully reference the past series. I think we've had little subtle references, but I think it's one of the biggest references with the Jubilee talking about her time in Genosha, the mutant liberation camps, and things like that. I remember those episodes. And they are saved by a hot topic stalker, who we'll find out later is older Jubilee. But before all of that, Mojo arrives. How do you feel about the return of Mojo, looking slicker and slimmer?
Yeah, I think I like the redesign or the advanced design, I guess. He did a little fit fam weight loss thing. And he just looked a little more likely wicked or sinister to me, which is, I guess, good for the fact that he's a villain, right? He could kind of come off playful in the original, to me at least. And this version, I think even his eyes actually don't blink, compared to the previous version where sometimes they did, because he has these things that are meant to keep his eyes open, right? So it's just these kind of little touches that I very much appreciate. I think, it made the character come across good on the screen, especially at the end when he was the final boss as well, which I'm sure we'll get to.
I thought so too. I think they did a better job of making him more sinister. I guess video game executives are more sinister than TV executives because that's where he's transitioned from. For those who don't realize, in the original series, he was a TV executive and is trying to create TV shows featuring X-Men, and he gets his powers through people's attention. And so he's transitioned into video games, which I think is an interesting transition as well. In terms of getting attention, it's true. You see that, Roberto? Everybody likes video games, but get off my back. And he offers Jubilee a choice. Again, this is what she's going through. Do I grow up, or do I want to stay young forever and have this fun times forever? And that's the choices she is that's put before her. Did you ever play the X-Men arcade games?
I actually didn't, and that makes me a little sad, to be honest.
Oh, so good. So good. And I think they did a very good job of kind of visualizing that, all the arcade kind of style fights, even with the music, like the like the little
Hmm.
bit music and things like that. I thought that was
Yeah,
really, real done. I think they did a good job of kind of maintaining the video game aesthetics, like even little moments like getting extra life, powering
yeah,
up, almost dying.
yeah,
I thought that was very, very good. What do you think of that moment where we see older Jubilee fighting, and we find out her name in the comics? Actually, her name is, it's not said in this show, but her name is
yeah.
Absissa.
I got really excited personally. I think it continues with the theme I've seen in this show, which is highlighting the extent of some of these mutant powers, right, and how diverse they can be, right? With some with Cyclops, a little bit with Storm, and others. And I felt like that for me. I was like, okay, that's what Jubilee can become. And she had that moment as well, right? She was like,
Mm-hmm,
wow, I
mm-hmm,
can do that.
mm-hmm,
So I thought it was a great way for them to, I guess, give her an outlet to mature her
mm-hmm,
powers, right? It's fine to train, but like it's a lot different when you see, oh, I can literally do that. Okay, and then start practicing.
mm-hmm.
And even when they had like the combination final move, which I've been calling the
Spirit
Jubilee
Bomb.
Rasengan. Actually, it was Rasengan for me, for my
Oh,
Naruto
okay.
fan, but Spirit Bomb also works. It's because there were two of them, so it felt like
True.
very Naruto like. So yeah, I think that was interesting because that what they fired off, kind of like it made Mojo implode. So I was like,
Mhm.
dynamic power is here. But yeah, it was also, especially when she was skating. Oh, that was awesome. That was
Oh, that was so good. I was just like, what? And even the fact that her powers, she create those kind of spinning discs that can slice through
yeah,
things. I was just like, whoa,
destructive disc.
Jubilee. And again, this is part of the narrative of Jubilee learning to grow up. So part of
Mm-hmm.
that is understanding that her powers can also evolve beyond what she thought it was.
Exactly.
What
Mm-hmm.
I liked about this moment with her older version, though, is the older version gives her this kind of wisdom that says to her, you can't be stuck in this world like I have been
Yeah.
stuck here. You can't be stuck. You have to be able to move on and grow up. But at the same time, because she even says, Magneto is kind of right, but video games are still amazing. And I like that. It's like she says you can still grow up, you can still have what's it called, the responsibilities and things like that, but doesn't mean you should stop having fun. Doesn't mean you can't stop playing video games. It's just like us in real life. We have to find a way to kind of balance our lives with our video games
Mm-hmm.
and our fun. We,
Mm-hmm.
we can't play as much as we used to, but doesn't mean you have to stop playing. You know,
Exactly.
I didn't expect Jubilee and Roberto to have a kiss. I mean, it makes sense probably in hindsight, but what did you think of that moment?
Yeah. I wrote down to myself, even ex-woman need love. And I guess that's how I feel. Again, these guys, they're real people, right? So it's nice to see them sometimes, I guess, connect on like a human level, which I mean,
Mhm,
romance is part of anybody's life. So it's just an extra touch for me that I feel it made sense. It wasn't like she kissed him out of nowhere. They just went through this like
mhm,
life or death experience, and they were kind of cool, right? So it was just kind of like, okay, I'm alive. Wow. Okay, you're the only one who understands what I just went through. Emotions. So I thought that was interesting, and how right
mhm,
after
mhm.
that we transitioned to another pseudo love story. Right. I think that
Oh,
was really good
Forge.
the way that they spun that. Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for Forge. You know,
Why
he
is that?
came in with. I feel bad for him because things happened to him. Yeah, let's go into Life Death Part One with Storm and Forge. And this one, it's a shorter story, but a lot happens in that time.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Forge makes a nice dinner for her. It's bison chili. He's taking care of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When Storm says she misses the feeling of the wind rushing by her, he's like, "Let's go for
Go
a
for it,
horse
right?
ride to, you know, give her that kind of feeling of it." And then when he tells her that it was basically his technology repurposed that caused her to be in the situation right now, I just felt like, damn, Storm doesn't like you the way you like her. What do you think
Yeah.
of
Right.
Forge's feelings for Storm? He loves her. He thinks she's a goddess without her powers.
I guess similar to her, I was just kind of wondering, does he have enough context to love her? Like, I mean, it's been
That's
a
what I
little
was
while,
thinking too.
sure. Right? Like, it kind of seemed like almost a convenient time to mention that, right? Like, oh, by the way, I'm part of the reason why you lost your powers, but I love you. I love you. Like, I don't know. I felt like he kind of should have. he should have let her deal with the news. Like it's a terrible piece of news, right? Fair, but yeah, it just seemed kind of left field. Like, oh, by the way, I love you. But I didn't expect her to slap him though. I was
Right.
like, oh,
It's like,
damn, lady. But I mean, fair enough, I guess, to a certain degree. But I also hear his point. But again, this is why we love the X-Men. The stories sometimes are so deep because there's no like right or wrong, right?
mhm,
Decision was made, and he had you know a situation, and it ended up creating a weapon that was used in a negative way. But he's trying to undo what he did. I
mhm.
think that's the most you can ask, right?
And it's interesting because it's not like he did something technically. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he mentions about how he lost his appendages in the war. I love that he said,
Yeah,
"I was a soldier. There was a war, and that's it. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know
yeah,
anything else." But he even mentioned that he didn't create the technology. He created the foundation that the technology was built upon, and someone
yeah.
else. And he says a scientist in Scotland. And if this is my nerd brain reaching. Okay, this could be a reach. But the only scientist in Scotland that we know right now that could do something like that is a scientist called Dr. Adler that we saw in the original series. And the original series, Dr. Adler was actually um,
See,
Mystique, yes, working for Apocalypse. So is there a connection here? Do we know there's more? I don't know. What do you think of this owl thing? In the comics, it's known as the adversary. Arrives and just grabs. And fun fact, the adversary has Storm's voice. Do you think it poisons Forge?
yeah, because whenever things start like moving in lines from the body, that usually implies poisoning or takeover or the such. But yeah, the adversary. I spent a lot of time researching this dude. Um, Apparently, kind of translate from Satan. Not directly,
Oh.
but I saw that representation, and you could see that because one thing I enjoyed about this episode was how Jubilee's thing was kind of whimsical, and this
Mhm.
was like almost leaning back into that horror, right? Because adversary was
Yes.
not he was not cute. He was not
No.
like even Forge was like demon, get out of here.
Yes.
So I very much like that they're already showcasing some of the baddest villains in the X-Men universe. I mean, there are a lot more, but it's just bodes well for the show for me because we've already met Sinister and now the adversary, and there's still so much more. But it's just a nice way, I think, to just show the depths of the problems that these X-Men have to deal with. Even
Mhm.
like you can't even just go away and be on your own in an island and like have fun. Nope. There's
No, it
some
follows
villains
you.
gonna follow you. Yep. Like she tried to escape and he was like, no. Which makes me wonder, like, is she like in like a VR thing or like is she
Mm.
trapped somewhere? Like, what are the logistics of that, like riding and falling back into the house? I'm very
Mhm.
curious as to what's going on. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited from what I read in the comics. Adversary tale, she ended up very, very, well, I say dire. I mean, people die right, in comics, but yeah, I'm excited. I really want to see what they're going to do with that and how it leans into her story. Because, like you said, it's the same voice actor of Storm, which also got me thinking, oh, is this like made up from her like thoughts? Like, is it
Mhm.
a projection of her? I don't know. It's just so interesting, and I really want to see how they treat that specifically.
But she notices, and I could be reaching here, but she notices the
Yeah.
owl earlier on, and
Mhm.
I believe that owl is probably the same adversary, right? I feel like that's what they were
Yes,
alluding
sir.
to, that
Yeah,
they're
so.
doing. And what I liked also in her narrative, especially when you kind of do parallels with Forge, he was a person who he was whole. He was a soldier, and
Mhm.
then he lost his arm and he lost his leg.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he had something missing, and he had to find a way to evolve. And you
Yeah.
look at Storm in the same way. Her losing her powers for her is like losing an appendage,
And then, yeah.
right? She can't feel with that moment where she couldn't feel the wind when she was begging,
Mhm.
please. I love that. And
So,
even the fake out
so
with
sad.
the birds and the trees, I was like, damn. She had a slight moment of hope, but it
Mhm.
wasn't real. Just you can't imagine what it's like to, because even moments where she says, "Oh, the wind from here passes," she can tell how the wind passes. It comes from the north, from the south.
Yeah.
She can usually tell how the wind flows, but all of that is completely gone. And it's, again, I imagine it's like losing an arm, for her. And
Mhm.
I thought that was just really well done, and you really felt her pain in that short moment. And this episode is titled "Life Death Part One," which, so I'm assuming we're going to get part two either next week or some in the future episode. as much as the Jubilee story was contained, this one is the through line story, and I'm curious to see where they take this. I thought this episode was a nice, contained, smaller episode. It wasn't as epic. We didn't get really big, epic action and fight scenes. We found out that Storm and Cyclops are at the UN having some discussions and meetings.
Jean.
Oh yeah, sorry, Jean and Cyclops. But I think this was a good kind of episode to kind of simmer things down a bit and let us know what things are going to be like going forward in terms of Storm's narrative. Jubilee's older now. I hope throughout the rest of the season we get to see her utilize her updated powers, and it wasn't just a one-off there either way. Anything else to add?
It's a really good episode again, because I think the themes of Jubilee overcame her problems, but Storm is literally succumbing to hers. I think that was just a nice narrative for the episode. I'm kind of impressed again that this was done in 30 minutes, right? And it doesn't feel rushed, but I'm encouraged for the season, because again, there's a lot of X-Men stories, and it's nice to be able to kind of intertwine and slice through without fluff, if that makes sense. So I think it was really well done. Looking forward to what comes next, and yeah, can't wait.
You're right. This is, as much as this is not in terms of overall a big episode, this could have been a throwaway fluff episode, but I think they did a good job of still making it as important as it needs to be going forward. What do you nerdies think of this episode? What do you think of this show so far? Episode 4, I'm not sure how many we have this season. I can't remember. It's somewhere. I think it's either 8 or 10. Either way, we're either halfway or we're coming up to halfway. What do you think of this series revival so far? Find us on social media at The Nerdie Bunch, and tune in for more episodes next week. Thank you, Andrew.
You dude.
My name is English Dave, and this has been a Nerdie Bunch presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we spoke about X-Men 97, Episode 4. And as always, Andrew,
keep it nerdy.
Peace.